Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers conspire together against the Lord and his anointed one. This rhetorical question, penned so many centuries ago, still holds a mirror to our world. When we delve into these verses, we see that the nations and peoples represent those who challenge God's authority. They scheme and conspire, their hearts filled with rebellion, refusing to acknowledge the sovereignty of God. But the psalmist gently reminds us that these efforts are ultimately futile. For in the grand cosmic scheme, God's rule is unshakable, his dominion unchallenged. These verses paint a vivid picture of human defiance against divine authority, a recurring theme throughout history. Yet they also underscore the futility of such defiance, hinting at the steadfastness of God's rule. The opening verses set a striking scene, don't they? But there's more to discover. The next verses 3-6 show a defiant response from those who oppose God. As we delve into this section of Psalm 2, we encounter a sense of rebellion. The leaders and people of the earth, as described in these verses, are intent on breaking away from the Lord's rule, from his bands and cords. They express a desire for freedom, but it's a freedom of their own design, not the true freedom offered by God. But what is their response met with? Is it fear? Is it worry? No, it's laughter, divine laughter. God, in his infinite wisdom and power, responds to this rebellion not with fear, but with derision. It's a laughter that carries a sense of irony, of divine sarcasm, if you will. The creator of the universe, finding amusement in the futile attempts of his creation to assert their independence. And then, we see a shift. The laughter fades and is replaced by wrath. God speaks to them in his anger and terrifies them in his fury. This isn't a petty anger but a righteous indignation. It's a response to the audacity of the created, attempting to rebel against their creator. Then, the Lord asserts his authority. Despite their rebellion, despite their attempts to assert independence, God has set his king on Zion, his holy hill. It's a clear declaration of God's sovereignty. No matter the rebellion, no matter the defiance, God's plan remains unaltered. His king is set, his rule is established. God's response to rebellion is both powerful and poignant. It's a potent reminder of his sovereignty, of his authority, and of his ultimate control over all things. It's a reminder that no matter how much the world may rage, no matter how much people may rebel, God is still God. His plans are still in place, his authority is still absolute. The power dynamics are clear, aren't they? Now let's move on to the next verses. Verses 7-9 reveal a promise made to God's anointed one, which is Jesus the Christ. Let us take a good look at these verses. Here we find a promise of inheritance to the anointed one. The text reads, "I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the nations for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession." This promise, so powerfully stated, is a testament to the divine relationship between God and his anointed one. The anointed one is declared to be God's son, and is assured of an inheritance that spans the nations and reaches to the uttermost parts of the earth. The magnitude of this inheritance is beyond worldly possessions, symbolizing a spiritual legacy that transcends human understanding. Continuing on, the verses also highlight the authority given to the anointed one. It is written, "Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel." This reference to a rod of iron represents the authority and power bestowed upon God's anointed. The imagery of breaking nations like a potter's vessel signifies the supreme power to shape, guide, and if necessary, correct with firmness. In essence, these verses do not merely present a promise but a decree that upholds the divine authority, the far-reaching power, and the unassailable position of Jesus Christ. The final verses 10-12 offer a warning and a way of hope. In these lines, a potent message is conveyed to the rulers of the earth. It's a call to serve the Lord with a sense of fear and to rejoice, albeit with trembling. This is no ordinary fear, but a profound reverence for the divine authority that governs all things. It's a fear that stems from understanding the consequences of stepping out of line with his divine order. The verses also illuminate a path of hope, a beacon for those lost in the tumult of worldly power. It tells us that true joy and peace can only come from submitting to the Lord's rule. It's a call to seek refuge in him, to embrace his sovereignty. It's an invitation to let go of earthly arrogance and embrace the humility of divine servitude. These verses conclude Psalm 2 with a powerful message of hope and submission. Psalm 2, a short yet profound psalm, presents a powerful message. It begins with a question: why do nations conspire and peoples plot in vain? This sets the stage for the exploration of God's supreme authority. Despite human rebellion and resistance, God's rule remains unchallenged. He has established his king on Zion, his holy hill, demonstrating his divine sovereignty. In the heart of the psalm we see the assertion of the Son's rule, given authority to break nations with a rod of iron and dash them to pieces like pottery. The psalm concludes with a wise counsel to serve the Lord with fear and celebrate his rule with trembling. It offers a beautiful promise of refuge for those who put their trust in him. Remember, the nations may conspire, the peoples may plot, but God's rule remains unchallenged. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of Psalm 2. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom from the Word.